You'll often hear people nowadays say, what's the point of travel, especially during a lockdown and especially during a time of climate catastrophe? You can see the remotest parts of Tibet, even Narita Temple, in the comfort of your own home, in the palm of your hand, anytime you want. And if you really wish to taste the spices of Vietnam, to hear the rhythms of Haiti, to listen to the stories of Ethiopia, just go to the nearest big town, to Toronto or New York or London. They're all waiting for you there. That's absolutely true. Indeed, maybe the greatest blessing of my life is that the whole world has come to our doorsteps almost regardless of where we live. Yet, it's everything essential about a place you can't catch at a distance. It's the smell of frankincense when you step into your hotel lobby in Oman. It's the flicker of candles in the Jokang Temple in Tibet, lighting up the tear-streaked faces of pilgrims who've walked 2 or 3 months to be in that holy site. It's the taste of okonomiyaki in Hiroshima. We've all noticed that as intelligence grows more and more artificial, as reality gets more and more virtual, as news is more and more fake, we're crying out for the experience of meeting something in the flesh. If you're a fan of U2, as I am, you know that you can see them online in high definition again and again. So close up you can almost count the beads of sweat on Bono's face. Yet more and more people are more and more ready to spend hundreds of dollars to see them live, even if that means sitting in the back of a stadium where you're essentially following the action on a big screen. Why? For much the same reason that executives will fly across the world for a 45-minute meeting in an airport hotel with somebody they could easily access by Zoom or FaceTime. There's no substitute for the face-to-face, even if it involves expense and time. All the images in the world can't add up to reality. And it's really hard to fall in love at second hand. Travel isn't so much about movement. It's about being moved. It's not so much about seeing the sights. It's about gaining new eyes. And once you get new eyes, even the old sights become something new. I travel to make the most of a world of possibilities my grandparents couldn't have imagined. I travel because in any neighborhood, including the global one, the first sensible thing to do is to go out and meet the neighbors, to find out who they are and to tell them who you are. Whenever I'm in Ethiopia or Myanmar or Cuba, many of the souls I meet there would do anything to come and visit me in New York City or San Francisco, but they'll never have the freedom or the resources. So it's really up to us in a group such as this, the fortunate few, to take the initiative and go and visit them. Quite often I've been changed spiritually by trips I've taken. At other times politically, sometimes emotionally, or some combination of all three. I'll never forget one afternoon stepping out onto the terrace of the Potala Palace in Lhasa, just after Tibet was opened to the larger world. Of course, it's a beautiful setting with snowcaps across the valley under deep blue skies. And maybe I was suffering from jet lag or culture shock or just the effects of being at 12,000 feet. But it was something more that went deep inside me. Whatever the reason, I felt not just that I was on the rooftop of the world, but somehow I was on the rooftop of my being, some part in me I had never accessed before. 36 years on, I can feel that moment inside me as if it were yesterday. In a very different vein, I found myself earlier this century in Yemen, in the port city of Aden in the south. I had been in Aden before when I was 2 years old, and at that time it was the busiest port in the world outside of Manhattan. It bustled with all the sometimes illicit energy that arises when East first touches West. But when I returned now, as an adult, it was to find the most desperate place I've ever seen. After 40 years of fighting involving the British, the Soviets, North Yemen against South Yemen, there seemed to be no shops left, no restaurants, no playgrounds. Goats were foraging along the main street. When an occasional car stopped at a red light, sunken-cheeked old women would come and hammer at the windows, asking for a handout. It wasn't easy to find a hotel there, but finally I did locate a very nice establishment on the beach. Every time I entered, however, I had to pass through a security machine, as at one of our airports. And when I did step out onto the beach, it was completely empty. And then I saw 4 armed men on one side of me and 4 armed men on the other. And yet, as in so many of the other broken places in the world, everyone I met couldn't have been kinder and more eager to help a visitor from the US. 5 weeks after I left, as planes began flying into the World Trade Center, masterminded by a man whose ancestral home village was in Yemen, everything that I saw on the news carried a very different meaning for me, because the place wasn't just a name or some scary abstraction. I could see, I could feel its faces, I could hear its voices. It was a human truth. It's only by meeting a place face to face that you can rescue it from abstraction and from ideology and see it in all its human complexity. Suddenly it's not somewhere distant or foreign or exotic, but someone as close to you as that child crying down the street, or that stranger with a smile in his eyes extending a hand towards your own.